This episode of Fresh and Buds is brought to you by the Dusty Dragon, the premier bar and grill in the region of Wraith. I love this place. It's where I get all of my libations, and it is a great time. Now, you might be asking, Tommy, what's one of your favorite drinks to get at the Dusty Dragon? I gotta say, well, it's the Dro Mai Tai. You know, it is a delicious, delicious cocktail that is, you know, it's a homage to the Empress herself, Dro Mai, the Queen of Dragons. And you know what? Every time I'm sipping on a Dro Mai Tai, I'm thinking this place is great. So we're really happy to have that kind of sponsorship here on the show. Now, obviously, any young heroes are not allowed to partake in any kind of libations at the Dusty Dragon, but that's okay. When you become an adult hero, and, you know, you got a little bit more of a classic feel, you know what I'm saying? You can go and enjoy a great time at the Dusty Dragon. And you know what else is a great time? Fresh and Buds, the show, which we're going to get to right now.
Fresh and
All right, we are back, folks. It is yet another episode of Fresh and Buds. I'm your host, Tommy Fresh, and you are all my buds. And this week, we are joined once again by my bud, Dan Rutkowski. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. We got a great show for you all. Before we get into it, though, I just want to shout out a few quick ways you can support the show, which is, first and foremost, the best way to do that is take a look at the YouTube, give us a old like, comment, and subscribe. Hopefully some really cool heavy hitter stuff coming out soon on that YouTube channel, which is exciting. Another great way to support the show is to follow me on Twitter at freshbudspod, and to check out the Buds Discord, which is a great place to hang out for anyone in this community. So that is all in the Linktree below in the whatever description thingy. And yeah, it's a great way to support the show. And the Patreon will be back up in the new year as I try to figure out what I want to do with it. But we have a lot to talk about today with Mr. Rutkowski. First of all, what's new? How you doing? What's going on with you?
I'm doing great. Haven't played too much Flesh and Blood the past month. I had 3 weddings to attend in the past 3 weeks, so I've been doing a lot of life, not so much Flesh and Blood. But I'm completely fired up between Missing Worlds and the new OP announcement for next year. I'm just itching to play some games.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I feel the same way. I feel like I had a billion weddings this fall as well. It's just that time, you know, in our lives, you know, because everyone's getting married, which is good. Love's in the air, but we care more about flesh and blood being in the air. So before we get to the meat and potatoes here, always like to do the fresh faves. We got your fresh faves the first time you were on, but this time I want to do bright lights because, well, it's been a lot of fun to draft. At least I think so. Maybe we'll get your opinions on it as well. First of all, who is your favorite hero from the new set?
I think it's easily Max.
Yeah.
I love Max in draft. I love Max in CC.
Yeah, Max and CC might be in a really good position now in this new meta. Who knows? We'll talk about it.
We'll see.
Yeah, but I love Max in draft especially. Just I don't know, just something about the crazy things you can do with him, and you know, I don't know, hyperdrivers are cool, I guess.
Yeah, agreed. You crank and bank and you get a bunch of extra resources. Who doesn't want that?
Oh, it's awesome. What's your favorite weapon? Is it going to be?
Oh, it's Banksy. It's not close. I love Banksy. It's just a wrench, and it looks cool, and it plays cool.
Do you like it in CC, or because I see a lot of folks using something a little bit different?
Yeah, I want to like it in CC. I think I like it against aggro decks, decks with a lot of 2-box. I think the existence of armor makes it pretty bad in some matchups, but it's also high octane is just so good with the pistol.
Yeah.
So I like having both in the deck.
Yeah, I think that, you know, it probably just needs a little bit more. I think is basically my read on it. It's awesome in limited, so clearly was a success there. So, well, maybe one day we'll get the Banksy dot deck that everybody wants to see.
Yeah, my first build, I was playing like 9 gigawatt just to pump the bank seed.
Uh,
It was really bad.
yeah, well, I mean, it
Really, really
sounds
bad.
fun at least.
Mhm.
Next is equipment. Now we had some different kinds of equipment in the set, as well as your typical kind of stuff. What was your favorite equipment from the set?
Let me think. Favorite equipment. It's
Some
kind of
cool
boring, but I just like blocking for 3.
blocking for 3. Oh,
Yeah,
like
with the what's it called?
the
The
steel souls.
modular.
Oh, the what the heck is that called? The one that looks like the Leonardo da Vinci.
Yeah, yeah. I can't think of it. But yeah, no, I think.
Something plating, right? No. Oh God.
I think.
So many cards.
Yeah, I'll bring up my deck.
As the game gets bigger and bigger, there's more cards to memorize, and it's just like only a certain amount of headspace I have, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
What?
Adaptive plating.
Adaptive plating. I knew
Yeah,
plating was in there. Yes, that card is awesome, and I'm interested to see, I guess, why we can move it. Do we know why we can move it, or is there no real reason yet? I guess like I bring this up all the time whenever this card comes up. I'm like, is there a reason yet? And I guess maybe with
You can break frostbites, but not anymore.
oh
It
yeah,
costs
that's true.
0, so it's like pitching into the tunic if they have like a frost hex on you, I guess.
Oh yeah, that's
There's
kind of
probably
cool.
some weird stuff like that.
Yeah,
I don't think there's anything too impactful though.
nothing too impactful yet.
Yep.
I don't think. I'm sure they'll print something to make it make sense, but great pick there. And blocking for 3 is very good, I've found.
Yeah.
What's your favorite run of the mill card? Non-attack action, instant attack action, item. We have a lot of great options this time around.
I think at one point I would have said Boom Grenade, but I played so much Dash IO that I kind of hate that card now because it's takes so much work to make that thing hit
Mm-hmm.
when people start blocking. From the new set only, right? We're saying.
Bright lights and the expansion slots count as well.
Oh, there's so many good ones. I want to say Big Bertha because I love Big Bertha.
Big Bertha's awesome.
I'll probably go with Twin Drive though. I both like love and hate that card. Like as a Fi enjoyer, that card terrifies me. Like being able to harpoon off of 3 cards is super efficient.
Very,
It
very.
just does so much. Like
Oh yeah, it's just it does everything it's supposed to do. It's not flashy really in any kind of way. It just makes everything else flashier, which is kind of cool. Are you running Big Bertha in Max right now?
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I'm looking at my list right now. I was only playing blues.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna play some reds for Dromai. We'll see.
Does Crankshaft make it in, or is it just Big Bertha, or both? You want both all the time? Not all the time.
You basically need to land one crankshaft effect, like adding a counter to a hyperdriver, that or one single recharge. And if you do it once in the game, you're ready to make the suit.
Awesome. Yeah.
So you want some density of that effect.
And interesting. Is it always on the suit, or is that a sideboard plan, or vice versa? Is it on the suit initially for most matchups, and then you kind of board out of it?
I don't know. I've heard people do both.
Mhm.
I'm actually pretty new to Max. Like I just started this week.
Okay.
Like really diving into it. I'm planning to just go like high octane twin drive suit every matchup because those cars are just insane.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I can't imagine why you're only on Max in the past week. What could have changed other than Iyslander hitting LL? Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a deck that you were playing a decent amount, although a lot of people do know you as a 5 player. What are your thoughts now that Icelander's gone?
Yeah, I kind of expected it. Like I wasn't counting on playing it next weekend. I 100% was going to play it at the Brawl. But Iyslander just wins battle hardens. Like she has like an 80% first place rate or something crazy, I feel like, at battle hardens specifically. Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of bummed. I've been a Frostbite hater since they came out. So like I think now when we get new heroes, we can all be excited that our resource curve isn't going to be taxed every turn.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
it's incredible how frostbites can affect a game where you only have 4 cards and limited amounts of
Yeah.
resources to do.
I really don't think we'll see the same implementation of like easy frostbite generation when we get the next ice hero.
No, certainly not. I mean, for sure they'll still have a lot of the ice cards, but
Mm.
not on a stick like Iyslander, which was a problem. So why do you think that like Iyslander has such a high rate of winning in battle hardens specifically rather than
Yeah.
callings? And I mean, obviously we saw it win a world championship and a nationals, but
Oh, I see. Okay.
yeah, but like battle hardened specifically, you said
Yep.
80%. Like it's pretty
Yep.
crazy. Why do you
Yeah, I
think?
think baseline is just a really good tournament deck, right? Like it's super efficient. It's a blue base deck. Like as long as you don't have 4 reds, your hand like almost always operates efficiently, and like the odds of drawing 4 reds is like less than 1% in almost every Icelander list. So like baseline, you're just consistent and powerful. But I think the deck is like very hard to play against and extremely punishing if you make mistakes. Like you pretty much lose if you make 2 mistakes, probably even one. So I think the skill level being a little bit lower at Battle Hardens is probably a factor. Um, because I think it might be the most punishing deck to like misplays.
Yeah, that's for sure, and especially like it has one of those or had one of those uh, kind of play patterns where you can kind of bluff a lot of different
Yep,
things,
exactly.
and that makes it hard even for experienced players. That you could be bluffing multiple things and you can change the whole way you play out your turn just to play around the wrong thing, and that could be
Yep,
super punishing. So
yep.
uh
And if you're playing Icelander, like you should be pausing at every priority window.
yeah.
Like if you have a red set, like don't just be like, yeah, go, 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 go. Like no, you gotta pause, look at it,
Yeah,
make them
read
think like maybe it's blue, maybe it's not.
read the card that they played.
Yep,
Uh, no go again. Okay. Yeah. Stuff like
exactly. Yep.
that. So you were planning on playing it this weekend at the
Mhm.
Realm Rumble Brawl 20K Invitational. What do you think this means for that tournament? This is going to be the first big tournament with a lot of competitive players who a
Mhm.
lot may have thought we're going to play Icelander, yourself including. Uh,
Yep.
what does this mean for this tournament?
I don't know. It's so interesting. So I think a few thoughts. So like Bravo stonks obviously go up, but people were already playing a lot of Bravo anyway,
Mm-hmm.
which I disagreed with. I'm a Bravo unenjoyer. Um, but the Icelander matchup was like terrible. So I think Bravo's actually a lot more reasonable now. Um, I think Phi gets better, maybe. I don't know. It's so weird. Um, like decks can build a little more greedy now, cutting blues. I
Yeah.
actually have no idea. I think the real question is like, what are all these Icelander players going to play now?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, you would hope that they had a few decks in the arsenal, but maybe they don't.
You would hope.
And yeah, and it's a wizard deck, but it's not like you can just it's Kano and Iceland are nowhere near the same
No.
vibe, right?
Mhm.
It's not the same deck at all. So it's not like you're just like I'm just gonna switch over to the other wizard. You know,
Yep.
for example, if maybe you lost Phi, you could theoretically sleeve up Katsu, and you're kind of doing similar things. It will be interesting to see how it plays out. Now, Bravo is an interesting one because that's another, I guess, heavy blue deck, right?
Mhm.
In
Yep.
in the format. It's would you say that is going to become a one of the safe choices for something like a battle harden that we saw Icelander do well with so much because of the reason you stated, it being a blue deck and being very skill intensive?
Yeah, I think that'll always be the perception. Like that's why people were already playing Bravo.
Mm-hmm.
I never will advocate for people to play Bravo in a tournament until more things change. Um, but yeah, it is a good safe pick. Like you're pretty consistent. That deck actually like struggles a lot though if you like you don't draw enough blues.
Mm-hmm.
Like even like 2 red hands can be pretty problematic. Um, so it's close. I think the real consistent deck right now is like Dromai,
Yeah.
because without Iyslander, like your all your cards are red. Like
Yeah.
you can kind of use any combination of cards between blocking and making Ash and attacking.
Now, you unfortunately had to miss Worlds due to, attending these weddings.
Mhm.
And obviously, you know, you would have loved to have been there. I think a lot
Yeah.
of us would have loved to have been there. What are your thoughts on how it shook out, right? Especially with Fi, a deck
Yeah.
that you've known very well, very
Yep.
comfortable with, to kind of amazingly rise to the top by not only rise to the top, but piloted by Alex, who certainly was a great player, but somebody that we hadn't really seen on the scene
Sure.
until top 8 at Worlds and winning it.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a lot of thoughts there. I'm still finishing watching. I've been like slowly doing it. I'm on the semifinals right now, so I'm like pretty much there. And I did get to catch the finals. Um, yeah, let me pull. I have the meta report next to me. It was pretty interesting. Uh, I wasn't like shocked to see Iyslander as the most played deck, but it's been like historically um had like a low adoption rate, like
Mm-hmm.
despite being the best deck. Um, now the meta all made sense. The amount of fives was actually probably the most interesting, right? Like there's 45. I think my take on Fi doing well is that like I don't I don't feel that Fi is currently a good tournament deck because of consistency issues.
Mm-hmm.
But I do feel that Fi is like always able to win any tournament. Like he always has that possibility if variance goes your way. So I do think he's appealing. I think his like meta position was super reasonable with Bravo and Dromai being two of the most popular decks.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Iyslander matchup is like kind of horrible post Belittle. And I think that's what we kind of saw play out is that like the our world champion had some like not in any way taken away from his play. Like I think he played great, but he had some very positive variance in his Iyslander matchups, and he even said it. I was just listening in his I think his quarterfinal interview.
Mm-hmm.
He was saying like, yeah, my list only has 15 blues, but I drew a blue every turn, and that's like that's all that matters in the five matchup. You need one blue per hand.
Yeah. Yeah.
You cannot miss the one blue. And if there's a channel lake, you want two. And he just had it. And if I has one blue per hand, he might be just be the best deck. And when you see that density of fives, like they're gonna have some number of those fives are gonna have good variance. So you see him rise to the top and take it down, which is awesome to see.
Yeah, yeah, it is interesting. I guess maybe like that amount of fives. Do you think that was in a response to people expecting Dromai to kind of really be the deck over the weekend?
Yeah.
Because certainly very powerful, and we saw one make it into the top 8, but maybe these ninjas kind of gate kept Dromai from rising to the top.
Mhm.
Uh, Do you think that with Iyslander gone, though, you said that you don't think it's a great tournament deck because of the variance,
Mhm.
which I do want to ask you something about that after this.
Yeah.
Do you think that Fi still can actually end up becoming a good tournament deck here?
I don't think it ever will be for me until we get something new.
Okay.
Just because like the resource curve is just not there. Like
Mm-hmm.
you're kind of forced to play Kodachis now because they're more friendly to playing one costs. Like I think if you're on Emberblade Fi, realistically, you can support like maybe 5 1 costs in the whole deck
Mm-hmm.
consistently, and like no 2 costs.
Yeah.
Which means you're like sacking power, or you're just depending on having good variance in your draws, which is fine. Um, so that's the kind of the reason that I don't think I'll bring Fi to too many tournaments, but I think he'll always be an option.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was super sad that Blittle's gone, but I also feel like Fi is in like an incredibly healthy spot. Like because of those issues, he's not hyper efficient, and I think if he was, he would just be the best deck.
Yeah.
Where right now it's like you need some positive variance, but if you have it, you can spike any tournament at any time, and the power is still there.
Absolutely. Now, you keep using the V word, variance.
Yeah.
And this is a hot topic in Flesh and Blood right now, right?
Mhm.
This is a game that kind of staked its claim in the competitive scene as a game with famously low variance, still some variance. This is a trading card game. Yeah, you can only run into so many all red hands before you start losing your mind.
Yep.
There seems to be a push, and we've seen it with some of the heavy hitters cards that we've seen, towards a little bit more variance. Obviously, bright lights, boosting is a variance mechanic. What do you think about this kind of push towards a little bit more variance? Because the reasoning that we've heard is we want variance allows newer players to win, right? Sometimes.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts here as a competitive player, but also someone who enjoys the casual aspects of the game as well?
Yeah, that's fair. I don't think I have too deep of a take on this. I would just say I don't have any issues with the variants we've seen introduced so far.
Okay.
I don't like rolling dice. That's like kind of a separate topic. I don't like the existence of rolling dice in the game, just because of like logistics of it and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, wait a second. Don't you have a little KO? Two-person
casually, I love rolling dice.
Yes.
Competitively, I don't know, because like you don't know if the dice is manufactured properly. Like there are ways to get better at rolling the number you want. It's just a weird thing, but that's fine.
Yeah, I get it. I understand that. Now, you're pretty involved in the competitive side of things. Obviously took a little bit of a break because of life, which we all have to sometimes. But you're wearing the sweatshirt right now. You're still part of the Runaways. How is that going, the Runaways? Because we hear more about it every day, and obviously we see a lot of the members of the Runaways, perform very well. Take us through, your experience with it so far.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I could do probably a couple podcasts on just this topic. Like I started the Runaways with two other guys, Shane and UNG. We've grown quite a bit since then. It's been interesting. There's a lot of like difficult dynamics to balance with like friendships and how many people do you add? How do you add people?
Mm-hmm.
How many teams is too many? So like we kept it really tight in the beginning. Like we were 4 people for the first like 6 months, and then we went to 8 people for like another 6 months, and then we had, I think it was maybe Worlds last year. It was like we had 2 weeks or 3 weeks to learn a new CC format and a new draft format, and we're like, we need more people, like more knowledge, more better.
Yeah, that's what that's what they say. Now, at this point, what is the membership like in terms of numbers?
Yeah, I think we have 17 teammates currently. Yeah, there's so much I could go into here. It's like
Yeah. You don't have to get into the weeds
Yeah,
here,
yeah.
but yeah.
No, but I think our mentality now is that like it's better to have a bigger network.
Mhm.
Like we're all about collaborating, even outside of the team. Like I know a lot of like groups might try to keep like their tech secret or only test internally. Like I at least personally, I'm very of the opinion that testing externally is far better, and then kind of dissecting the information with your teammates is the way to go.
Yeah, and it certainly has worked out for you guys so far. So, that's good to hear that it's going well. And are there any big plans with, we're going to talk about in a minute, but the very robust OP system in 2024? Is there any like things that you guys are just like, all right, these are our goals, or is that something you're going to kind of work on towards, going into the new year and what to expect?
Yeah, I mean, for me, and I think for the most of the team, like the goal is always just to prepare as well as possible. So I'm always like hyper focused on how can we improve on our testing cycles, what we're doing, um, like what new things can we introduce, what should we get rid of, that kind of thing. We're actually doing our like debrief session later tonight. I'm excited to hear everyone's feedback since I wasn't as involved for this cycle since I had to go to Worlds. But no, I think the plan is just play every event we can possibly play and prep as best we can and try to perform.
So is the goal? Now I gotta ask: is the goal to be the number one team in Flesh and Blood competitively? Right.
I mean, of course. I think for me, as like on like the organizational side. I want the Runaways to be the number one place to test and the number one play to improve at Flesh and Blood. Like we just rolled out our premium Discord offerings where we're trying to give people like without teams or local communities access to a network of players and give them kind of the infrastructure that we use to kind of create that environment for them as well.
Awesome. I think that's really important because we all can't be part of a team, and sometimes and as you've experienced, I've experienced, we all have lives. We're all
Yep.
mostly of the adult age where we have responsibilities. Sometimes it's tough to kind of commit to a team dynamic, and then also be able to kind of just hop in and kind of learn as you go is a nice option for people. So I'm glad that you guys are doing that now. Obviously, you got a tournament this weekend. I'll see you there.
Yeah.
Columbus, which this comes out Thursday, so
Okay.
Friday
Cool.
morning.
Yep.
You are showing up to this Realm Rumble 20K Invitational. Yep. You were gonna bring Iyslander.
I was.
Now you can't. Is Max the truth?
Yeah, I think so. I think I'm gonna be cranking and banking. Fi is like forever my backup deck. Like if I'm ever in a pinch, like a week before tournament, and I realize the deck I'm prepping is just not it, like that's probably when I'll be playing Fi.
Sure.
So it is still my backup, but I think I'm just locked on Max at this point.
Awesome. Yeah. Now, Max is kind of been this deck. I guess. I mean, we saw one in the top 8 of the Calling Melbourne, and we saw some over the past 2 weekends at Worlds. I think you saw a little bit in Wallonia. Now, so we have a lot of Mechanologist decks right now, right? We have Dash.io, we have OG Dash, both still making splashes, right? They're both still doing the thing. What's the reasoning to look at Max for people who maybe don't want to play a Dash deck?
Yeah. No, I think it's a couple of things. It's actually like a super appealing deck. Like it's the kind of deck I like to play. I think first on like the variance topic, like yes, boosting is inherently random. But like the fact that all like non-item mech cards block for 3 means that when you do get those 4 red hands, you're able to stay somewhat efficient because you're blocking for 3, not 2, like Fi would have that issue. But the existence of hyperdrivers just means that like you have no brick hands. Like I was playing some games this morning and I'd have 4 reds. I was like, had my teammates watching, like, oh no, 4 reds. It's like, this doesn't matter. I block 9. I play a red 0 to 60 for 4. I get a resource for my 1 hyperdriver, and then I use my Foundry Heart up to 2, and I get a new hyperdriver. Like it's so efficient, and that's like a bad hand.
Yeah.
So I actually think it's a pretty consistent deck in that way. It plays a bit like Fi when you're not comboing, and that your attacks all have go again. Except all of the attacks are above rate. They're all 4s and 5s and 6s. They all block 3. But you're usually playing towards this combo game plan. Like the aggro matchup's different. The aggro plays a little different, but I love having a deck that is either fatigue proof or has a very solid game plan against blockout decks. And I tried so hard to figure that out for Dash.io. I just couldn't do it, and it was frustrating. But this deck has way less things you have to juggle. Like for IO, you're juggling like when you have a boom grenade out, you're like pressuring yourself into figuring out how to hit. But I think with Max, it's really just you need to like get 1 high octane protected in Arsenal, and then you make your suit, and then you win the game. No, go ahead.
No. I'm just interested because you're speaking all the praises here. Now, what would be the reason not to play Max? What like obviously you're a huge fan and it is definitely a powerful deck. What would you say would be you would tell someone? Well, if you're worried about this, do not take Max.
Yeah, I'm still learning the issues for the deck, but I think the biggest thing is like the deck is very dependent. Like the success of the deck is very dependent on the build, your sideboard plans, and your game plans for every matchup. Like if you don't understand the game plan for a matchup, it's probably very hard, especially if they're blocking.
Mm-hmm.
And you do have to kind of be able to adapt on the fly. Especially for like a deck like Bravo, if they're playing aggressive, you might be like, hey, I need to use these high octanes to pressure them back. But then if you boost away your third high octane, you have no win con. Like you can't get over the top of these block decks without a high octane mech suit turn usually.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I guess I guess right now the biggest blocking decks got to be Bravo and the Control Rhinar. Maybe is that the
Tree
read right
Frog
now?
Dash.
Oh yeah, Tree Frog Dash.
Draw my two.
Oh yeah, Drumai can do it.
Mhm.
So, all that being said, what don't like you don't want? Do you not want to run into those decks, or do you feel like if you have the game plan kind of put together, you can overcome any of these matchups that might be
Yeah.
more difficult?
Yeah. Again, I have very, very limited reps. It's been like 3 days, but I'm learning fast. It feels like a deck like Tree Frog Dash. You should be able to beat every time because they don't really have pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Like the worst thing they could do is CNC you, but you're fine to block 2 cards. Like you're never protecting more than 2 cards.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that should be something I want to see. I think on the like Bravo Drill My side, I feel good about it. Like I think it's easier than the aggro matchups
Mm-hmm.
because if I don't find my mech suit in aggro matchups, it's hard
Yeah.
and the game's shorter. Where like against these decks, I have all the control. Like I get to manage my resources and make decisions. Bravo can be scary, right? If they just loop crippling crushes, it's like, oh, what are you gonna do? Like I played a game this morning where I had my high octane set and then I drew 2 high octanes and they dominated crippling crushed me. It was like that's unlucky. That's kind of just a lose con right there. So I think Bravo's probably pretty scary. Dromai's similar in a different way in that if they get a good dragon start, the game's just hard. They're not like disrupting you; they're more distracting you, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know.
Distracting, not disrupting, is a great way to put it.
Mm,
Now I know you said you're figuring out
yeah.
but I will remind you this comes out on Thursday, and by the time this comes out, you've already mastered the deck,
Oh yeah.
and you're the best Max player in the world.
If not, I'll play 5. But we'll see.
Yeah. I guess we'll know tomorrow, which should be funny. So the reason that you are on Max, right, is because Icelander's gone, and because of
Oh yeah.
that is I mean, Iyslander was already very close, but we're going to see a lot of rotation in the next
Yep.
year because the LL system has changed in 2 ways. More points for almost all the events that you can achieve LL points, and then also if something hits LL, it's done, and then it's not legal for the next week. So. First of all, what's your take on that? Because this is the first time we're really feeling it outside of Young Chain. Young Chain just happened as well, and in skirmish season, which it is something worth talking about. But Iyslander is the first big one where there's a big tournament next week, and it's a very short turnaround. Do you think this is the right way to do it? Because this is. I mean, you're feeling the pressure right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a few thoughts. So I think first, I'm hoping and I believe LSS will put in stipulations before tier 4 events, certainly, and hopefully tier 3, that LL won't take effect within like a 2 to 4 week period of the event.
Mm-hmm.
Like they have that option. They haven't announced it. This isn't a thing that exists currently, but they could do that, and I really hope they will for like tier 4 events, especially. Like, don't allow 3 days before something to LL. Like, that feels a little ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I think everything else, I'm on board with the change. I mean, my take on all these things is usually it is what it is. Like
Yeah.
I'm gonna adapt and adjust how I need to do my best in whatever environment they create. But I hate playing dead formats. Like I thought the Lexi experience was miserable last ProQuest season.
Yes.
So I am in favor of decks going away when it's time to go away.
Yeah, yeah. I think it. Yeah. Lexi was a problem. Yeah, I think that's a fair way to say it. But you know, it will be interesting, and I guess we'll see basically how this weekend shakes out in terms of people's thoughts and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Because you can't really like you're feeling the pressure now, but you don't really know how you're really going to feel until you're at the event. And this is
Mhm.
not just you, or not even just this event. This could happen, throughout the rest of Flesh and Blood's history, as long as this kind of idea is going to be put
Mhm.
into effect.
Yeah.
So we will see. Now, another reasoning I could see them increasing the LL points is faster rotation, and
Mhm.
I believe they said 15 new heroes next year.
Yep.
So
I think so.
I don't know if that's all adult heroes or
I think they said adult. I think they
adult.
clarified it. Yep.
Okay, good. That's a lot of heroes,
Yep.
right? So what what do you think about that? That's like they have to rotate a decent amount of heroes, and we're not going to have a lot of time with some decks. Like Dromide's not going to be around for a long time.
Yep.
I imagine Phi won't be around for a long time. You know, as well as I think Katsu and Viserai are pretty. I mean, they're not
Mhm.
close to also
Sure.
LLing. So what are your takes on a lot of new heroes in a year? This is the most we've ever seen.
Yeah, I think for the game it makes a lot of sense. Like people clearly love new heroes.
Yeah.
Like whenever a new set comes out, like their play rate on Talishar is insane, and people get excited very consistently. Um, no, I think it's like great for the game overall. For me personally, I think it's fine. I think like I have a full time job. I'm like pretty busy in life, especially like running the Runaways now. For me, the perfect spot is if I have one deck that I can play throughout multiple metas and just adjust, like I did with Chain and Belittlefy. Like that's my cozy spot. Just
Mm.
master a deck, adjust accordingly. So I'm just like forever hunting for that. So if they give me that, introduce all the heroes you want, I'll adjust accordingly. As long as I can keep playing whoever it is.
Well, you might have some time with Max if this ends up being a deck that you really, really love and want to master. And,
Yeah,
you
I think
know,
it has the potential.
we also have some really bad heroes we could get you on. You can learn and
Yeah.
stick around. Arachne, maybe. Although,
Arachne's looking
yeah,
kind of interesting. I don't know.
that new dagger is pretty
Yep.
cool. Um, so it should be interesting. Now, with this robust OP system, so we have 50 battle hardens, 18 callings. This is all proposed. Obviously, things could change.
Yep.
2 Pro Tours. We know LA, and now we know Amsterdam in July.
Yeah.
We have Worlds, and then obviously Nationals season, as well as skirmishes and stuff like that sprinkled within. You got to be excited. You love playing
Oh my god. Yeah.
competitive
Yep.
events. What's going through your mind?
So like I was like very sad, like right before Worlds. I was in denial. I was like, am I actually not jumping on a flight to fight tomorrow? Like what's going on? And then the announcement happened. I like just immediately stopped caring. It's like I have a new goal now. Like I'm ready for next year. This plan sounds awesome. I was really hoping they do 2 Pro Tours. That's very nice to see. Um, increased prizing's also awesome. I just like more like having more events to play at that level. Yeah, super pumped. Amsterdam sounds awesome. It's a great location, I think. Hoping Worlds will maybe be back in the States for my vacation days' sake. But yeah, I'm just pumped. I'm gonna do everything I need to do to make it to the tier 4 events. That might mean sacking some callings this year. We'll see. Really all depends where Worlds is for me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, it is very exciting. 50 battle hardens, though. I keep looking at that
Mhm.
number, and people have made this point already. That's almost a battle harden a week, right?
Yep. But I think it said last year was like 41.
Was it 41? I mean,
Yeah.
that is a lot, and it feels like, it's almost every weekend we have something.
Yep.
I guess the question
That's great.
is how many of those are Savage Feet's going to be at? They're going to be running around a lot.
Hopefully all of them, man. People gotta pay that, man.
Yeah, yeah,
Like this weekend was like the first Battle Harden in a while where we didn't have coverage, and I feel like a lot of the community felt it. It was like, what do you mean there's no stream? We
yeah.
always have a stream, but we gotta hook up Ethan with some donations if we want him to do all the events.
Absolutely. I don't.
Because he'll do it 100%.
Oh,
Just has
100%.
to be break even or better.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You got to put food on the table. That's
Yep.
priority number one. Do you worry, outside of the streams and whatever, maybe we did have 41 this year.
Mhm.
Do you worry about the sustainability of 50 battle hardens? Because we've had people complain in the past where it's like, oh man, there's so many events. Like, because now not only, it's 50 battle hardens, but now we're going to have an extra ProQuest season this year as
Mhm.
well. That's a lot
Yep.
of things to do all the
Yep.
time. Do you think it starts to even out in a way? Can they sustain that, first of all? And do you think it evens out in a way where maybe like pro players aren't just going to try to spike gold foils at ProQuest all the time? And stuff like that.
Yeah, I think we've already seen that this year, at least
Mhm.
for me personally. Like we might just start seeing pro players rely on elo or the PTIs that they're winning at Battle
Mhm.
Hardens. Um, I don't think there could ever be too many Battle Hardens. I think I would like to see the prizing scale based on participation, but besides that, I think it's in that sweet spot of like you don't feel the need to go to it,
Mhm.
but if you're able to, you're excited to, right? It's not like it's callings and pro tours where if you're missing out, like you're feeling that you're missing out. So I think it's fine. The more battle horns, the better. Like if you can go, great. If you can't, hopefully Savage Feats is there and you can watch the stream.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now the callings, I'm personally very excited for the callings. And when I played Magic, I love GPs,
Yeah.
and callings are obviously the equivalent here. And we had like a bunch out of the gates, right? When the OP system started to take off, and then it kind of felt like it tapered off a little bit, more focus on battle hardens and the larger events. 18 callings. One of them being pretty local to us, the Hartford one. I'm excited to go to
Mhm.
that. I also believe Az from Go Again Game is going to come over from the UK, so that's going to be,
Nice.
a lot of drinking probably. But callings, what's your expectation of callings? Like, do you think they'll evolve into more of a celebration, like we've seen other large scale events like of the similar size in other games, or are they going to be, you know, almost like semi-pro level events where it is the best of the best, like traveling to all
Mhm.
of these?
Yeah, I think right now it feels like I mean every calling has felt like US Nationals because there's only been like two standalone callings a year
Mm-hmm.
where the pro players are usually in the pro tour when like the Sunday or Saturday callings happening.
Mm-hmm.
So I think as we get more callings, they will become a bit more casual and more celebrational. Um, I'd love to just see every like SCG con be a calling instead of a battle hardened. Like they
Oh
can
yeah.
clearly support that kind of event. It's just a matter of I'm sure there's more to it. I shouldn't say that, but I'm sure it's probably worth the investment of putting the additional prizing there.
Yeah, I think so, and it seems, and we can only speculate. It seems like SCG and LSS have kind of developed a pretty,
Mhm.
simpatico kind of relationship. So you can only hope that that is where it goes. Now, beyond the competitive scene, and obviously the callings are a very competitive event, but could be a little bit more casual on the side event side of things. We see a lot of
Oh
UPF
yeah.
stuff and
Mhm.
stuff like that. Do you think there's any way for LSS to leverage these events to bolster the casual side more so than they already do already?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think especially with the new set, if they do a calling that's draft pit fight format, that would be insane for the casual side.
Yeah, that would be pretty nice. Yeah, that. So what's your thought on that? Because That's crazy. Like a
Yep.
pit fight draft. I mean, it's not crazy. We've heard of stuff like that before, but I mean, it's coming sooner than I thought it ever would.
Yep, agreed. I think it's probably not good for tournaments,
Yeah,
even though I
no.
just said that. But I think for like an 8-man pod, it sounds so fun. Like you draft, you play 4-man pit fight, and then you 1v1 the other pod winner. Like that's so cool.
Yeah,
It's
that's
like balance a multiplayer deck versus a blitz deck. I don't know. I think it sounds super sweet.
yeah, it sounds neat and you know, all this talk of the OP announcement kind of, begs the question about armories and what they can do there. That
Yeah.
seems like a great option for armories and getting armory attendance up and stuff like that. As someone who likes to play locally, right, as well as these large competitive events, is there something that LSS maybe missing isn't the right word, but is not trying with armory events to get more people out?
Mhm.
Because we saw each other last night at Gilded
Yep.
Raven, which always has a huge crowd. But,
Yep.
but
Like
then,
minimum 20 players per
yeah,
armor.
which is crazy. But
Yep.
then, you go to some other stores and maybe the attendance isn't so great.
Yep.
So it makes you wonder, is the player base just big enough to support one store, or is there something else that we're missing here?
Yep. I really wish I knew.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can share a couple of thoughts. I think number one, you should get Bob on the cast to
Yes.
tell everyone the secret of how he's doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Because like he's like 10, 20 miles from other local stars in our area, and no one comes close to his attendance
Mm-hmm.
and like the loyalty and excitement of Flesh and Blood there. Um, yeah, from the LSS side, I don't know exactly what they can do. Like it's kind of the nature of the game. Like they built it to be competitive focus first because that's kind of like that was part of their like core intent for the game and their beliefs of how it would be successful, which I think worked out great. I think transitioning to the casual crowd, I don't know. Like the hero aspect of this game is so effective. Like people immediately associate themselves with specific heroes and like fall in love with their heroes. And I don't know. I feel like the game has so much going for it that like it should be very doable.
Yeah.
It's outside of my expertise. I don't know.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like because like you said, we see it happen in some stores, but not others. Surely there's some solution to this problem, and I wish I was qualified to fix it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's tough, right? Like, we can only speculate
Mhm.
and throw out ideas, and like what Bob's doing at Gilded Ravens, excellent. It feels like a Flesh and Blood store. I mean, the most incredible thing to me is like we were all drafting, and then there was people just playing Blitz, just like on the side, like who
Yeah,
didn't
it's
want to
every
draft.
time too.
Yeah,
You know,
which
like we
is
played TC games all day leading up to the draft too.
so
It's a great
cool.
place.
And I know, and John over at Green Tree out in Pittsburgh. I
Mm,
mean, I had a lengthy conversation with him last time I saw him, and kind of got his takes on like what he had to do, and I think it really comes down to the TO or the store owner really just getting behind the game, and maybe there needs to be some businessy incentives
mm.
for the
Oh, sure.
yeah for the like the retailers to want to support the supplier, right?
Mhm.
And maybe that's where we need to get to. So hey, listen, LSS, just call me up. I'll tell you what to do. I'm kidding. Just call me, please. Let's get some listener questions. What do you think about
Yeah,
that?
sure. Sounds good.
We have one from someone named Flake who asked, "How do you feel about Fi's place in the meta post Lexi, and do you think Fi is poised to dominate once Iyslander LL's?" Obviously, this
Mm,
question was sent a little bit ago,
yep.
and we talked a little bit about it. But if there's anything you want to expand on,
Yeah, I just think Fi's domination will always depend on how many people are playing Fi until we get some new cards.
mm-hmm.
Like it's just the resource curve and the fact that when you do draw a hand that doesn't fit your resource curve, your card's blocked for two.
Yeah,
It's it's hard for that type of deck to dominate and like win tournaments consistently. But I think it will forever be a threat to win any event.
for sure, for sure. Next comes from Sigma, who asks, and this is interesting. We didn't even mention Vincent the whole podcast, and you toyed around with Vincent. What does Vincent still need to be a contender?
It is close. Like, the deck is inherently powerful. It needs like power cards, like a codex. Like, it has no power cards, right? It's just like you do all this work and then you get a payoff. But like no individual card is just like value. So it needs something like that, and or more consistent rune chants that aren't like spend one card, get one rune chant, I think.
Yeah. It's tough. I mean, a lot of people wanted it to be the chain replacement, but unfortunately, you can't print another hero like chain, and
no, and they shouldn't.
Yeah, they shouldn't. I mean, I think I could almost feel that it wasn't going to happen just by reading Eclipse, because like I was like, oh, they're going to print another chain because they have Eclipse, and Eclipse is a card that it's a legendary that people was like, it's a field bads that they own it, they can't play it in CC or whatever, or now Blitz as well. And then I'm like reading the card, I'm like, well, the only way to make this card good is to do the busted things that Chain was doing, so maybe they're not going to do that again.
Sure.
Next comes from William Knuckles from the Table Pit, who asks, will we have a Brute/Guardian hero next set, as in a hybrid hero, or I guess like a dual class hero? I guess this could go
really
for
hope
anything. Yeah, well, Brute Guardian would be
sounds
insane.
terrifying. Blood Rush in a Guardian deck. Oh no, but it has to only affect free cards. Yeah, I don't think we'll see hybrid heroes. Maybe in Blitz.
Maybe
They do feel like they're happy to like explore some funky ideas in Blitz, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, we saw it with the Emperor, and with 15 heroes coming out next year, and we don't know what the hero situation is in heavy hitters. But
no, they announced it. It's 6 adult heroes.
6 adult heroes, but we don't know what the
Oh yes,
like if agreed, because we saw Kasai and Young Kasai, but maybe we see some other wacky stuff. But I guess if we already know Kasai and Young Kasai are like warrior only, we probably won't see any funky stuff like that. But you never know. Greg asks, was Fi the deck you would have been on at Worlds if you had attended?
No. No, definitely not. Not definitely not. Like, it's always a deck I consider. Like every testing cycle, I spend at least a week playing Fi. Just like because I want to play Fi, and I can never quite justify it. I was pretty hard locked on Iyslander at Worlds if I was playing. It's just what I was the most prepped on, and it was like clearly at worst tied for the most powerful deck, and it's consistent. Like, I didn't see any reason not to play the deck. I felt good about the Dromai matchup.
Yeah, and I'm not sure, but I'm sure a lot of the team felt the same way too. Based on what they brought. And finally, Gary, aka Mr. Viz, asked, "What's disc golf season looking like in the winter? How do different seasons affect the game?"
Oh, sure, that's a good question. I think at the pro level, this is like the off season. I think they start up in like February in Vegas. For me personally, I don't play much anymore, sadly. Like, now it's just kind of, if I have a free few hours and it's nice out, I'll go get some exercise. I do have a course like 10 minutes away, which is super nice. It's completely playable in the winter though. I used to play all season round, play in the snow. You lose your disc more often in the snow. People like tie like a little ribbon to their disc, so when it digs in, you can still see the strand coming up.
Well, I imagine like outside of the snow, winter might be the easiest time to find your disc. If
Oh yeah, early fall without leaves, like the courses get easier. When the leaves fall down, though, you do actually lose quite a few discs in the piles.
Yeah. Now, before we say our goodbyes, Dan, I want to know, heavy hitters, what are your hopes, dreams, ideas? What do you want out of this set? Heavy hitters is going to have Brute, Guardian, and Warrior, something that is very exciting for a lot of us.
I mean, despite what I said earlier, I just want some more Brute cards that roll dice.
Yeah, wow.
Beyond that, I just hope limited is fun competitively and casually, because I think premise of it, like the clashing and the wagering, sounds like a very fun experience. So if it plays well as well, I think this could be like a home run draft set potentially.
Yeah, absolutely. I think something like Clash, especially, is something I was just thinking about earlier today. Was, you know, it's variance, right? Right. You don't know if you're gonna. I mean, obviously, you can build your deck to like win more often than not, but it will for streams and even just watching your buds play at the LGS. It's a very exciting moment when you're like, it's like a make or break clash, and you guys go, all right, 1, 2, bam, flip over the top card and see what happens, which could be a lot of fun. Yeah, go for it.
I was gonna say it's like low stakes variants, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like you know about it, you can kind of control your deck around it. Where a
Mm-hmm.
card like say Warmongers, sometimes it says you lose the game, sometimes it says your opponent wasted a card,
Yeah.
and there's not really much you can do to get around that.
Well, yeah. Well, Warmongers is a card and seems to be an issue in Living Legends format. I'm not sure.
It's gotta go.
Yeah. Well, I don't
This
even.
is gatekeeping so hard.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I've heard. Are you even considering Living Legends format as something to play, or I mean, obviously, if there's a battle harden, you probably want to.
Yeah, not until I have a tournament.
Yeah.
I'm interested in playing, but like, well, I mean, right now it's easy, right? You just build your Starbow deck and you're good to go.
Yeah.
But once they do some balance changes, I probably won't do testing until I have an event to prep for. But I'm excited and interested in doing so.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, well, Dan, it's been a lot of fun. I appreciate you coming back on. I enjoy your expertise and, just hanging with you. It's a good time. I appreciate your time. Please plug anything you'd like to plug. And thank you.
Oh, sure. Yeah, the big thing is just check out the Runaways. We have a YouTube channel. And like I said earlier, we have a public Discord where we do some collaboration of playing games and talking about games. And then we also have premium offerings where we try and get you guys collaborating and having like better tournament prep. And if you're on the super premium tier, you get direct access to the team where we're kind of committed to helping you grow and improve at the game. That's kind of our mission for YouTube as well. We just want to share the knowledge and kind of help everyone play and enjoy Flesh and Blood to the best of their ability. Beyond that, you can find me on Twitter at DiscGolfDan. I tweet about things sometimes. Feel free to ask me questions on there. I'm usually happy to respond to the community.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Please check that all out. Obviously, if you know Flesh and Blood, you've probably heard of the Runaways, but it's good to go take a look, especially on YouTube, see what they got going on. And speaking of YouTube, continue to find the show and other content on my YouTube at Fresh and Buds, I think, or just it's in the link. Just search Fresh and Buds. I don't think there's a lot of us out there. Give us all a like, comment, subscribe. That all helps. Discord, the Buds Discord, that's in the Linktree as well. Twitter's at freshbudspod. Dan, I'd like to talk about food. What's some food you've been enjoying lately to end the show?
Yeah, good question. I think I'm just gonna shout out Curry Zone by Gilded Raven Games. Like every time I play there, I'm like excited to play Flesh and Blood, but I'm like equally excited to get some really good Indian food. It's like in the same mini mall as the store, and I get it every time I go to the store now.
Yeah, I got it yesterday too. I got a shrimp biryani and it was
Nice.
absolutely delicious. I love Indian food. So, and I also was like surprised that like like Gilded Raven's like good with people eating it in the store because Indian food is very good, but it's also very fragrant. So but it is very good. Shout out to Curry Zone. And because we talked so much about Curry Zone right there, I don't have enough time to bring on Charmer, but that's okay. We'll get to him next week, maybe. Thank you, everybody, and have a great week at the Realm.